There have been pages and pages of information written about Edinburgh. For centuries, visitors have been awed by the castle dominating the skyline, and if anywhere in Scotland is going to claim royal connections, then Edinburgh certainly looks the part. Looks have always been very important to the capital. Edinburgh has a reputation as the most anglicised of Scotland's cities, the one most permeated by the rest of Britain's population. But its setting, its architecture, and the effort that has gone into fulfilling the expectations of tourists for the last couple of 100 years make it arguably the most Scottish-looking city. It looks as if kings and queens were once in residence, as if ghosts hang about down its back streets, and if there is a story to be told about every brick. And right in the middle of the city stands Arthur's Seat, looking like a piece of the Highlands that has been shipped in especially. Although there has been a fortification sat up there on that glacier-moulded volcanic rock since about 5000 BC, Dunedin, or the hill fort on the sloping ridge as it was once known, became an official royal borough during the 12th century reign of King David I of Scots. David lay out the old quarter of the city, the High Street and the Royal Mile, with its wynds and closes that spill from the castle down the spine of the rock, with the palace and the abbey at the foot. By the 16th century, and following a series of poundings by the English, Edinburgh was a fully walled city. Mary Queen of Scots' intrigue-filled stay and execution, and John Knox's Protestant Reformation are as vital ingredients of Edinburgh's old town as the phantom Highlanders left behind by bonnie Prince Charlie's visit, adding to the city's glamorous but somehow tragic aura. In the main though, Edinburgh's claim as the royal seat of the Scots monarchy comes not from any permanent residence of King and Queen in the drafted palace of Holyrood, but from a series of event-filled visits. When George IV arrived in Edinburgh in 1822, the city was enjoying its zenith, and the King's visit was a public relations tartan orgy of stage-managed Scottishness set up by Sir Walter Scott. The monument to Scott in Edinburgh's Princes Street Gardens is a testament to the impact that he had as the first internationally successful novelist, selling millions of copies of his highly romantic Scottish epics. In doing so, he gave the Scottish identity a huge shot in the arm in the face of overwhelming anglicising influence. What you see of Edinburgh today somehow adheres to Scott's template. Virtually every building constructed in the century following his time reeks of a prefabricated Scottishness and efforts at proud identity. The camera-clutching tourists love it though, flocking to this unsurpassed stage set all year round, especially for the Edinburgh International Festival, the largest of its kind in the world, and of course, for the most renowned New Year's celebration in the world, Hogmanay. However, the facade obscures Edinburgh's renowned sinister recesses, and the city, as the saying goes, wears a fur coat and nae knickers. A characteristic famously exposed by another great author of the borough, Robert Louis Stevenson. Stevenson observed that there were two sides to the city: a moral, righteous Athens of the north, coexisting with a seedy underground society of depravity and immorality. He believed that this dualism was embodied by the city's inhabitants. For example, the body snatchers Burke and Hare, murderers who sold their victims' bodies to the university anatomy department. Or Dreeken Brodie, dignitary by day, cat burglar by night, who was inspiration for the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This tradition of Edinburgh writers lifting the skirts of the city continues today, with Ian Rankin's Expector Rebus thrillers invariably set down murky old town closes and dodgy drinking dens. Nor can we overlook the author of Trainspotting, Irvine Welsh, or his stomping ground, the famous Port of Leith. Leith forms most of the northern quarter of Edinburgh, giving the city access to the sea. And although Leith was once completely separate from the town, with even today a fiercely independent identity, it was always dominated by the capital. And they became amalgamated in 1920, despite the furious protestations of the Leithers. The town motto of Leith is Persevere, and with good cause, as the community's fortunes have been as tempestuous and unpredictable as the sea in which it was once dependent. If then Edinburgh somehow pretends to be more Scottish than it actually is, Leith, a town within a town, is the embodiment of Scotland. It has somewhat resisted the anglicised veneer and pretentiousness that Edinburgh is so often accused of, and although Irvine Welsh populated it with articulate degenerates, he presented a reality stripped of any tourist appeal and gave his characters good Scots tongues in their heads.